Welcome to Adaptation, the vlog where we talk about film adaptations and the original material they're based on. I'm Kendyl Bryant, and in the month of January, we are talking about mythology. While I was researching some of the upcoming videos for this theme, I noticed how oversaturated we are with Greek and Roman myths. Of course, the Norse and Egyptian ones are sneaking their way in too, but it made me think about the many corners of the globe that have interesting mythologies that haven't been adapted that often into books and film. Or maybe they have been adapted, but just haven't gotten mainstream attention in the US. So I thought I'd spend this video naming some mythologies that I wish we'd see more of. Australian Aboriginal mythology has a lot of stories that explain things about the landscape, which might be a reason that it hasn't made it to this continent. One story tells of a battle between snake men that left scars on a huge domed rock in central Australia, and the story of the Seven Sisters explains a cave, a fig tree, and the existence of the Pleiades constellation. Of course, there's a lot of diversity across the continent, but one of the bigger shared mythologies is that of the rainbow serpent, which is associated with creation, the seasons, and of course, rainbows. Because of the harsh environment of the Inuit people, a lot of their myths are cautionary tales, like that of the, I hope I'm saying this right, Kalupalik creatures that live in the sea and carry off disobedient children. I also personally enjoy the myth of Sedna, who became the mistress of the underworld after getting revenge on her father for throwing her overboard into the sea and cutting off her fingers. I remember learning a lot about the Aztec civilization in school, but we still don't see their mythology depicted very often, which is kind of a shame because there are a ton of variations of stories about worlds that existed before ours being destroyed because of the actions of the gods. And I think that could do really well, because, you know, everybody loves a good apocalypse movie. In Chinese mythology, there is a huge pantheon of gods and goddesses that have changed with the change in dynasties and with the appearance of Buddhism and Taoism. Many of their historical figures have eventually been deified, which means that a lot of their myths are intertwined with historical tales, which could result in some very interesting historically based retellings. Japanese mythology also has a ton of gods and goddesses, and they also have some pretty dramatic relationships between them. Extremely paraphrased, there is a relationship between the creation gods that results in a journey to the land of the dead. The incarnation of the sun and the incarnation of storms have some sibling rivalry going on, and that sun goddess eventually births the original ruler of Japan and starts off the imperial family. Last but certainly not least, traditional African religions are extremely diverse given the gigantic size of that continent, but all we ever hear about is Egypt. However, the trickster Anansi originated in Ghana and spread to other parts of Africa and eventually the Caribbean. He became god of all the stories, before there were stories in the world, by completing a quest for the sky god where he had to bring him a python, a leopard, and a swarm of hornets. Specific ones, not just any old ones. And thus he brought stories into the world. And quest stories are always ripe for adapting. This was obviously just a very quick rundown of these mythologies, but if you have any specific stories that you'd like to see adapted or updated, then let us know in the comments. Also, make sure to check out the info section for links to all our social media and, of course, our podcast on iTunes. Until next time, if you haven't read at least one creation myth from each of the continents, you are seriously missing out on some weird tales.